welcome back to my channel. My name is Holly. This is She Reads. We are in the last days of Hollyween and I have been having so much fun uploading on my channel every single day. I've been trying to do kind of a spookier sort of themed video every single day this month, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's going to be kind of weird, I think, going back to only uploading a couple times a week. But in any case, today we are going to be talking about The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. And I read this book during Spookathon and I absolutely loved it. I gave it a raving 5 out of 5. And if you haven't read this, you really need to. This is an amazing thriller. And I'm just going to start off by reading the synopsis, and then I'm going to kind of go into a non-spoilery version part of the review, and then afterwards I'll let you know when I'm going to start talking about details in the plot, because I don't want to give you any spoilers if you haven't read this. So I will let you know when I'm going to switch over, but the first part is going to be spoiler free. So I'm just going to start off, like I said, by reading you the synopsis. And it says, Anna Fox lives alone, a recluse in her New York City home, unable to venture outside. She spends her days drinking wine, maybe too much, watching old movies, recalling happier times, and spying on her neighbors. Then the Russells move into the house across the way. A father, a mother, their teenage son. The perfect family. But when Anna, gazing out her window one night, sees something she shouldn't, her world begins to crumble, and its shocking secrets are laid bare. What is real? What is imagined? Who is in danger? Who is in control? In this diabolically gripping thriller, no one and nothing is what it seems. So just from that synopsis, what I took from that, what I assumed was going to happen before I even started reading or heard anything more about this book, was that I assumed that this woman was going to witness a murder. And just from the way the synopsis is written, like I kind of guessed that maybe she was obviously struggling with some mental health issues. But I kind of guessed that maybe she was going to kind of trick herself into thinking that maybe she didn't see what she saw, or she wasn't like quite sure exactly what she saw. And that's kind of like where I imagined the story going, was that maybe she was going to be trying to find out what happened without alerting her neighbors, maybe. That's kind of just where I assumed it was going to go. And I wasn't too far off. So she does witness something very... See, it's so hard to not give spoilers. She witnesses something major happening across the street at her house, or at her neighbor's house. And she is sure of what she saw. She is sure, but other people around her are telling her that this did not happen. So after a while, it kind of starts to make her doubt what she has seen. With this story, like, before I started reading it, after just reading the synopsis, I figured it was going to be kind of like a one-trick pony, and there was just going to be a twist at the end that I maybe wasn't going to see coming. But I kind of thought it would be kind of just like any old thriller, like a story like this. You know, you just kind of like can kind of figure it out. I thought it was going to be good. It's gotten rave reviews. But I didn't realize how good it really was going to be. And there is several major twists in this story. So I assumed there was going to be kind of like one maybe at the end. I kind of assumed either the twist was going to be either it was real or it wasn't real. So that's kind of how I thought it was going to go. Either she found out that she was just crazy and it was all in her head, whatever she saw, or maybe the twist would be that it actually was real and, you know, she figures out the mystery. So that's how I thought it was going to be laid out. And there's several twists. There were several times in this book where I was like, holy crap. If you watched my vlogs from Spookathon, I like vlogged my way through reading this book, and there's several times where I pick up the camera and I'm like, holy crap, you guys, like this, like something just happened in this book that is absolutely crazy and I did not see coming. So there's several times where there's a twist like that in this book. There was one twist that absolutely gave me chills. There was one twist that made me cry. Like, I just had so many different emotions while reading this that that is the mark of a really, really, really good book, in my opinion, that it can just make you feel so many different things, and you really you just feel for this character so much, and you just you just want her to figure out her life because she's going through so much. And as you get further and further into the book, you realize how much she really is going through. And it's just, parts of it are sad, parts of it are scary, like parts of it you're sitting on the edge of your seat. It's just, it was really, really well done. And I'm just like so impressed with this author. I have to pick up anything else that he reads because this was so good. So you guys, I'm not going to say too much more about this other than that for the spoiler-free part, because it's very, very hard to talk about this book without giving any spoilers, because the majority of the plot, there's a spoiler in it. So like I said, there's so many twists. So if you have not read this book, I definitely recommend running out and grabbing it because it is absolutely amazing. You will not be disappointed. And yeah, click out of this video, come back to it after you have read it, and I definitely want to hear your thoughts on this book in the comment section below. So if you are still here, let's talk a little bit more in depth about this book. I'm going to be getting into some spoilers now. So like I said, click out if you're still here and you don't want to be. If you have read this, stay tuned. So one of the things that I noticed about this book was that Anna seems older than she really is. As like, while I'm first reading the book, I'm expecting her to be like in her 50s. And I was very, very surprised when about a quarter of the way through the book, we find out that she's only 38 years old. And I'm just like, what the heck has happened to this woman to, first of all, make her agoraphobic? And second of all, like her life just seems so sad. And like she's a prominent doctor. So that's obviously she's not maybe struggled with mental health her entire life because she has this very successful career. She has a family. Like she seems like she has it all. But something has happened to her to make her this way. And in the beginning, like, I wasn't sure if maybe she was attacked. Like, I don't know. My mind kind of went all over the place. At first, I thought maybe she was like, maybe there was a break-in or something. Maybe they were like, I've read a couple books recently where the characters were victims of like a home invasion. So I thought maybe it was something like that. Maybe there was a rape or something like that to put her into this mindset. And then as we kind of were going along, I started to realize that it probably was some sort of car accident. And I did have that fleeting thought in my mind, like, did her husband and her daughter die? But then the writing was just so convincing where she's having these conversations with them that I kind of like, I had that fleeting thought and then I thought to myself, no, that's probably not what's going on. But I did have it for a split second and I just kind of let it go. So when we did end up finding that out, that was the part where I like just got chills and I like started crying because I felt so bad for this poor woman. Like she's just lost absolutely everything. Not to mention, like, can you imagine how you would feel like the last moments that you've had with your family, like you're fighting with them. Your daughter is so upset with you because you just told her you're getting a divorce. Your husband is upset because your boyfriend is texting you while you're on this last family vacation. So you're fighting with both your family and then you get into this horrible accident and they die. Like, can you imagine even just dealing with that would be terrible, let alone, you know, she's now developed this agoraphobia. It's just, it was so sad. And then like when they're going through the description of after the crash and she's pulling their bodies in and out of the car once it starts to snow and she's like talking to them and she's trying to give them like food and drink. Oh my God, I could just like start crying now. Like that made me bawl my face off. Like, can you just imagine, like they're dead and she knows they're dead, but she's even then at that moment trying to convince herself that it's not real and that they've survived this, that they're going to be okay. And she was like in the forest with them for 2 days. Like, I can't imagine that. That obviously, I mean, that's definitely a good enough reason to, you know, completely like have PTSD and agoraphobia and all this stuff that she's dealing with. Like, yeah, after reading all that, I understood why she is the way that she is. I did assume though, I assumed that after this story was over that she was going to have overcome her agoraphobia. And I don't know anything about agoraphobia other than what I've read in this book. Like I've never researched it. I've never read any books on it. I know that there's people that have suffered from this, but it's never been something that I've really looked into. So I don't know anything about it or how easy it is to kind of get over or work through. But I assumed that after the events in this book that she was going to kind of heal herself from this. So I was very surprised at the ending that we find out that she still is agoraphobic. And that made me sad because I just felt like this woman, you know, you feel for her. Like, yeah, she did a horrible thing by having an affair on her husband, but I mean, that doesn't mean that she should live the rest of her life like this. Like, just so sad. She's been through so much now. Like, it's bad enough, like, for one person in life to go through what she did with the car accident and her husband and her daughter, but then to go through this whole other thing. Like, can you imagine that? Like, going through two such traumatic instances like that in your life, like, you would just never be the same. I was very, very surprised. It was a complete twist at the end to me when Ethan ended up being the killer. I did not see that coming at all. In fact, I kind of assumed partway through the book that maybe somehow, like, if both the parents were involved in this murder, that maybe somehow Anna would end up with custody of Ethan. I don't know how that would work in my mind, but just in my mind, that's kind of what I thought was going to happen. Like, maybe that was kind of going to be her happy ending, was that she was going to have this big confrontation with who I thought was the murderer, which I thought the father and the mother were. Yeah, I thought she was going to have some sort of, like, huge confrontation with them, and either it would end with them dying or them getting carted off to jail, and that Ethan would somehow come and stay with her in this basement suite, and she would kind of have somewhat of a family dynamic back again and be able to kind of pull herself out of this fog that she's been living in. So that would have been the happy ending, of course, but I mean, all stories can't have happy endings, I guess, and that would be kind of unrealistic, because why would he end up going to live with, like, some, you know, for lack of a better word, crazy neighbor that's kind of been stalking everybody. But yeah, I mean, imagine he would end up going to a family member or something. But in my mind, that's how I thought it was going to work out. So I was kind of sad when it didn't, and it ended that she was still agoraphobic and trying to work through her issues. It seemed that she was getting a little bit better, but I was hoping that she would kind of be able to overcome it more. That's what I didn't like about the book. There weren't a whole lot. Like, I really, really did like it. Sometimes the movie quotes were a little bit too much, and it was kind of like, it kind of got confusing because there wasn't really a good way to separate when it was a movie quote and when it was, like, her thinking. So sometimes I got myself confused and thinking, like, oh, finally I'd figure out halfway through the paragraph, oh, it's a movie quote, like she's listening to a movie or whatever. So I think that part could have been done a little bit differently, just to make it a little bit less confusing, and maybe there didn't need to be quite so many movie quotes in there. And I understand that he used it as a tool because, you know, going through all these movie quotes, that was how she was able to figure out that it wasn't Jane Russell that was missing. It was the imposter, Jane Russell, that was missing. So that kind of led her on the track that maybe this man's wife really is his wife and they've killed the imposter. But why was this woman trying to be an imposter for her neighbor? So that kind of led her on the trail from that. So I understand that he used that as a writing tool to kind of set that scene up, but I just felt like it was a little bit too overdone in there, because sometimes it just kind of got annoying where it's like, okay, and I ended up, like, skipping parts of those scenes where when I finally figured out that it was just, you know, quotes from movies, I was like, I'm not going to read this part, and just kind of moved on. That being said, too, with the whole, like, her getting over the agoraphobia thing, I don't know, there are parts of it, and like I said before, I'm not an expert on this condition whatsoever, but there were parts of it that I didn't really understand how she couldn't get over it, because she had forced herself to go out a couple of times, like even when she followed Jane Russell into the coffee shop. I don't know, like she wasn't okay, but she wasn't, like, fainting, like how every other time when she left her house, she'd get 2 steps out and she would faint. She'd be so upset. So I understand maybe she's running on adrenaline or something, but the fact that she made it all the way to the coffee shop, had this conversation with Jane Russell, and then made it back to her home without fainting, like, that is a huge, huge step for her. Like, you know, so I kind of figured after taking some steps like that, and even, you know, fighting for her life on the rooftop, which, I mean, that would be 100% adrenaline keeping you going from that. But yeah, I kind of figured after that, those would have been the first steps to kind of get her over this condition. So I was kind of surprised that that didn't lead into that. Another couple things that kind of didn't work out the way I thought that they were going to. One definitely being David. I just assumed that as soon as she slept with David that was going to turn into a relationship. And they had made David seem like the kind of guy that obviously wasn't looking for a relationship, and he had a lot of female friends come over. So yeah, I mean, I understand why it didn't turn into anything more, but typically in books, like, there is usually some sort of romance that leads into something, and it's two characters that are not typically would be together end up being together. So I kind of assumed that maybe something was actually going to happen with that. So I was kind of surprised when it didn't turn into anything more, but I was actually happy that it didn't turn into anything more, because so often with stories like this, the story ends up being about the romance. It ends up being, you know, like this woman finding happiness and true love, and not everything in real life is like that. You know, not everybody finds their true love and, you know, works out all happy endings in that regard. So I was happy when it ended up not working out to be a relationship, and it was just what it was, and that was it. And David ended up leaving the story prematurely. Another thing was that I figured out almost right away that that 70-year-old lady that she was talking to was the killer. I don't know if it was that I had a feeling of that, or if I thought it was unrealistic that a 70-year-old lady would be on a chat room like this. I don't know. And I guess there's probably 70-year-old ladies out there that are very, like, capable of using the internet and can, you know, figure all that stuff out. But I guess I just found it weird that a 70-year-old lady would be in a position like that. Yeah, I just didn't really see that really being the case. And even just the way that they spoke to each other, I just kind of figured that it was somebody being an imposter and somebody kind of trying to mess with her. So, which I ended up being right, and it ended up being Ethan. So yeah, you guys, I'm not sure what more to say about this book other than I absolutely loved it. It was full of twists and turns. Like, please let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts on this book were. Like, did you love it as much as I did? Do you think that I'm, like, being too easy, giving it a 5 out of 5? What do you think? Was there anything you didn't like about the book? There wasn't a whole lot that I didn't like about it other than, like I said, those movie quotes all the time. But yeah, I really, really, really enjoyed it. I really felt for the character. I empathized with her so much. I felt bad at the end that she didn't, like, you know, better her life more. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts on this were. I will see you guys in tomorrow's Hollyween video. It's coming to an end very quick, you guys. Kind of sad about it, but I'm very excited for Halloween. That's my favorite holiday. I hope you guys are having an awesome day. I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye.